navigation video. In this video, we'll be discussing our latest version of EMUE and some of the new features and updates that you can expect within this new version. One of the largest ones is our move to Chrome and Microsoft Edge. The topics that we'll be discussing in this video include the updates and changes to expect, as well as some new commands that will be popping up, and also too how to get started with scripting in Chrome and Edge. There is something that we do have to change in our scripts in order to get started. And we'll also spend some time too talking about the command builder, some syntax and referencing, and giving a demo. In addition, we'll also spend some time talking about some best practices when transitioning your scripts over to Chrome and Edge, and we'll end it off with talking about some resources that you can use at your disposal, as well as support. We are here for you during this, so please do reach out if you have any questions, and please check out our additional resources. So some updates and changes we can expect. There are going to be some items that will be affected, as well as some items that will be unaffected. One of the first ones is our web script builder. So with IE, we would usually use the web script builder or the command builder, depending on what version of EMUE you have, to find element strings on the web page and interact with them. However, with our transition from IE to Chrome and Edge, we can no longer do that. We have to use the command builder, so the web script builder will no longer be available to click on and interact with. So for example, if we pull up this EMUE script here and click run on it, we will then go to tools, and if we want to interact with elements on the web page, we would try to click the web script builder, but we can see it's dithered out. So instead, we're going to click the command builder that's right below that, and this is what we'll use to interact with those element strings on the page. We will talk a little bit more about the command builder when we start walking through a demo and talking about referencing. Some of the other affected items we can expect is that there will be some new commands in EMUE as well, along with this change. Some of our new commands that you can expect are our set startup web browser, as well as our save web page command. The set startup web browser, this is what gives us the ability to select what kind of web browser we would like to use, whether that be IE, Chrome, or Edge. It defaults to IE right now, but we can always change it. Save web page, on the other hand, this allows you to save the HTML of an existing web page if for some reason a script was to shut down in the middle of processing and we didn't have exactly what caused it to stop processing. We can save what that web page previously looked like and look back at it. It's very similar to taking a screenshot. We'll see these new commands again when we look at the demo later on in the video. We can also expect too that the element string syntax and some referencing is going to change. So how we anchor on element strings and also the strings themselves. For Chrome and for Edge, we use XPath instead of our usual element strings. So that's kind of how they'll change, and we'll link additional resources that discuss that in a little bit more detail later on. So here's a brief example of what those element strings are going to look like. If we look at lines 100 and 101, we will see that there are both wait for web element go-tos. These are both essentially selecting the same element, however, they are different strings. The one on the top is usually what we would see if we were working with IE, while the one below that is what's going to be featured for Chrome and Edge. As you can see, the syntax is a little different. One other item I'd like to mention in the affected space that is not on this slide is if you are using Millennium version 2018.11, it does have an embedded browser for Microsoft Edge. Unfortunately, we do not support that at this moment, but we'll be working on ways to support that in the future. So you will have an effect in your scripts if you're currently working in that space or updating to that environment. One of the unaffected items is going to be that most of the element strings from IE will work the same in Chrome and Edge, which means that you can open up your previously saved scripts, step through those command lines, and them still work in Chrome and Edge just the same as they would in IE. And the same is true of Smart Names and the Smart UI as well. So here we have two element strings that have a little bit of a different syntax to them. However, they are essentially the same. And as you can see, the one that we would usually use for IE works just as the one for Chrome and Edge would work. Next, we're going to walk through a demonstration of our command builder and our new set startup web browser and save web page command. We'll also take some time too to talk a little bit about referencing and some of the changes that you can expect. In our script here, we have our new command set startup web browser featured at the top. We'll need this command within our scripts to open up the website in a particular browser of our choosing, and it will need to be added to any existing scripts. You can see here there's a drop-down menu that'll let you select which browser you would like to pick. And we're going to be choosing Chrome for this particular script. Once we have run the open web page command, we'll see our website has opened up on the right side of our screen. And then from here, we can start scripting that web page. We can do this by going to the top of our script into the Tools drop-down menu and clicking Command Builder. Command Builder can be used for every web browser and will be our primary command builder moving forward. Once we have the command builder ready, we will click Find, and then we will follow the step to identify controls that appears below the Find button. In this case, we are going to be looking for a claim number, and we'll also be looking at the Submit button, and we'll bring those in by following that way to identify controls. In this case, we're picking from a drop-down menu for what we want to type for our claim number. We're going to pick the variable claim number that we already have in our script. We'll click Copy All and bring both of those commands into our script themselves. And then from here, we step through the way that we would typically do with our scripts. And then after this, we're going to select the claim number itself that appears here for our patient and go into their profile. What's nice about the command builder, besides being able to put several elements in at once, we can also select whether or not we want to bring the entire grid in, just select a cell itself. In this case, we do want to just click on that claim number. And you'll also see too that we can put variables into those like literal strings for our commands, which we could do before, and we can still do that now. So we're just putting the word claim number in here so that we can click directly on that claim. So even though some of the syntax has changed itself, it's still very similar in the sense that you can still do many of the same controls that you could do before. At this point, we're going to start finding data. And as I said, the command builder can actually hold quite a bit of elements within the command builder itself. So we can go through and kind of just pick out from this list what we'd like to select and bring that into EMUE all at once. And we'll do the same thing here with this list. Now for this one, we're going to bring in the entire grid itself, and we will create an entirely new list by just typing that into this combo box. And we can do the same thing too for our variables. We can pick from the existing list, we can type in, or we can bring them in without the variables too, which is kind of what we do here. We click Copy All and just bring in those strings themselves along with the command. Once we paste all of that in, we can then go through and start, in this case, we're typing in our variables themselves just by hand, but we could have typed them into those combo boxes too. Once those are all placed, we can just see that we're basically selecting each individual control that's on this screen, including the list itself. And we'll go to our Lists tab and see that we did bring in that service list from our web page, and it matches exactly. If we hover over our variables, we'll see something quite similar. Our final step here is that we just have to click back to our search to now search our next patient. When we do this, we're going to copy all into the script itself, but we're going to add something else in here too. We're going to add a scenario where the script will error out. So let's say that for some reason we have an error right before we go to capture the date of birth fields. If we have an error there for our next patient, let's say that it causes an issue with the web page or doesn't let our script move forward, we're going to see kind of how we can handle that and use one of our other commands, our new commands, save web page. So we'll step through, encounter an error, and then we're going to go straight into error handling. Now from here, this is kind of where we can start adding in that new command, save web page. And this is going to save the HTML of this web page to a folder as an HTML. So we type that in, and the only thing it asks is for a file pathway. You can create a folder for this. You can just have a location for all of your file pathways. So in this case, we already have a folder called Save Web Pages, and we're just going to shift right click, copy as path, and bring that entire pathway into EMUE. And then from there, we're just adding a little bit more detail. We're going to say what the name of the page is, and we'll also add in some built-in variables. So we have our date field, and then we also have a time stamp as well, just to kind of link it back to our activity log that will show a timestamp and a date for when our script aired out. We can link it back to this. And finally, we're going to save it as an HTML, and that's really important in order to keep all of that information in a browser or in a location that looks like a web page. So we'll step through our script. You can see too, it moves pretty quickly. And then from here, our script will continue moving forward. It will continue to close out of the web page and go in through the error handling process and open up a new web page and rerun that record again, or attempt to rerun that record again. Just kind of what it's doing here. And we're just stepping through it. You could run through it at full speed if you wanted to, but. So we go through and we try to find the same claim again and the same patient. So all of this is happening. We also have our saved web page now in our folders. So I'm going to click on the most recent one, which is that one at the bottom. And when I click on that, we can see that it does open up as a web page and keeps all of these same data that the web page left off on originally. And this is really helpful for troubleshooting. We can even open this back up in EMUE and kind of backtrack through our script code and see what happened. Now we do caution, since this does keep patient data and has the capabilities to do so, that we keep this in a secure location just to make sure that we are being compliant with PHI and HIPAA. For the last part of the demo, we're going to talk a little bit about referencing. Many of you have worked with referencing in the past. You may have referred to it as anchoring. For the web script builder, that's what we refer to it as. And if you've worked with XPath before, it's referred to as axes. The references will change with the command builder. It will be a little bit different than it was for the web script builder. So instead of seeing options like contains by ID or the option for positional references, instead you're going to see following, preceding, ancestor, descendant, parent, and child. And we'll spend some time talking about those. Our first references or anchoring we can talk about is ancestor and descendant. So ancestor is the highest level in our code. It's essentially the grandparent of the element strings that precede it. And descendants are all of the other related elements to that ancestor that are within it. And you can kind of think of these as family trees, which is a little bit of what we're showing here. We have a grandparent, and then we have several children of that grandparent that are called parents, and those parents have several children within their family. Our next referencing is our parent-child referencing, and these are probably quite familiar to you. If you've worked with the web script builder in the past, they're kind of following through with that. The parent-child relationships are still the same. You have a parent that's an element immediately direct to the ancestor and can contain one child or several child elements, and a child is an element immediately following that parent, and the children together are siblings. So again, very similar to what you've most likely seen. And then lastly are our following and preceding references. So these are a little bit different. This is more location-based than it is relationship-based. So preceding in this case is what we're showing right here, the orange box, the one that just has the child within it. Everything before that is preceding. Whereas here, we're kind of showcasing the following reference point. So for following, we have the parent that is highlighted in a purple box, and then below that is the child or several child and parent reference points. And again, it's not based on the relationship between them as much as it is related to their location within the HTML, or in this case, within the family tree. So here we're just kind of showcasing how you can use the command builder to create a reference point. So in this case, we're going to click Find and select our element that we actually want to interact with. And this would be if this element was hard to identify or it didn't have a unique attribute, then we'd probably want to do a reference on this. And from here, we're going to click on this string, and the string is going to bring us to a new window. And so this is kind of replacing our previous anchoring. We can select our attributes from here, pick a type and index, and as you can see, some of them are dithered out. And then from here, we have the choice to choose a reference. So we can click reference and add, and then select our reference point. And we'll see that it tries to select the best option for us based on where we've identified our reference point being. In this case, it chose a following reference point for a standard element. And then after it chooses that, we can click close, and we'll see that that appears here at the bottom, and our string has changed. So lastly, we're going to talk about some best practices for transitioning over your scripts. And it's pretty easy to remember. The acronym that we chose to use is CHROME. So C stands for create a script copy before starting. It's always good to just have a backup in case you need to revert back to a previous version of what your script looked like before, or if you just want to log and keep track of any of those changes that are made to the script. H is for have the command builder handy. You will want to keep the command builder around because it's very helpful for identifying element strings. Sometimes XPath can get pretty advanced. Feel free to check out one of our more advanced XPath videos. It can get pretty advanced, so it's good to use the command builder when you can because it does make it a little bit easier to navigate. R is for read and review the element string syntax. Does it make sense? So we kind of do this already when we are working with IE. We look at the element string to see, does this make sense logically in the space that I'm in? We suggest doing the same thing for any of your XPath scripts. It'll also help you navigate and learn to read XPath better if you are reading it during your scripting and saying to yourself, okay, that makes sense. I'm selecting a text box. That's what I expect it to look like. Or yes, I'm clicking a button. That's what I expect that XPath to look like. O is for organize and document your script updates. Any changes that you make, it's really helpful for other readers as well as just for yourself too, to know what changes you did make to your script and organize and document what changes are being made in case you ever have to revert back again to a previous version of your script. M is for monitoring your scripts during the testing phase. You do want to step through the command lines one at a time and make sure that they are selecting all of the correct elements, especially if you're working with something that went from IE to Chrome. You just want to make sure you're stepping through all of those element strings. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we're error handling, which is E. So at the very end, we want to make sure that we're verifying any information that we brought in. We want to make sure that the script is doing what we expect it to do, and we're even preparing for things that it might do in the event that things do not work out as expected. So we want to add that error handling in. I think that the save web page command is a very useful command to kind of put into our error handling in case we do want to keep track of any potential web page errors that we might encounter. And then to end this video, we want to talk a little bit too about where you can go for resources and support. So one of our first places to go is our help topic. It does have information on the command builder. So if you are new to the command builder, it has a great set of resources there. Also too, feel free to check out our informational resource guide that we just put into our knowledge base space. And for this, there is XPath specific guides. There's also some videos too that are a little bit more like advanced scripting if you are curious about going through that. And there's also an exercise packet if you want to get some more experience in a separate environment from your Saurian environment or from any other web page you might be working in. Feel free to also reach out to any of our training resources as well as support. We are here to support you in this time of transition. So if you do need help in any shape or form, whether it be like with your scripts or trying to understand XPath a little bit better or trying to understand what changes need to be made to the scripts, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to Cassandra Patassi at cloudmed.com, our RPA trainer and implementation specialist. And then you can also feel free to reach out to me, danica.ortiz at cloudmed.com, and I'm the senior RPA trainer and implementation specialist. Also too, feel free to reach out to our support resources. So our phone number is 857-5433 and just choose option 2. You can also feel free to reach out to our help desk at databound.com through email. And then we also have a client portal for any of you that are signed up or were previously signed up for our website. So that link will also work too. And this slideshow will be in that informational resource guide knowledge base space. Thank you so much for joining us to talk a little bit about the new features and updates we can expect with our latest version of EMUE. Happy scripting to you all, and we'll see you down the road.